and legs. And I'll form the head.
What if one of the biggest heroes of the 1980s was not a man, not a soldier, and not even a single machine, but 5 sleeping lions scattered across a ruined planet, waiting for the right team to bring them back to life? For millions of kids, Voltron, Defender of the Universe, was more than another Saturday morning cartoon. It was a ritual. A bowl of cereal, a glowing television screen, and that unforgettable moment when 5 robotic lions formed one giant warrior. But behind the famous transformation sequence was a much bigger story than most people remember. There was a fallen kingdom, a cruel empire, a princess forced to grow up in the shadow of war, and a legendary defender whose return changed the fate of an entire galaxy. The story begins in a universe already under attack. Far across space, the evil King Zarkon rules from Planet Doom, a dark and miserable world built on fear, slavery, and conquest. Zarkon is not the kind of villain who wants peace or respect. He wants control. His armies attack peaceful planets, capture prisoners, and crush anyone who resists. Against him stands the Galaxy Alliance, a group of worlds trying to protect civilization from Doom's growing power. But the Alliance is stretched thin, and the galaxy needs something stronger than fleets and speeches. It needs a legend. That legend is Voltron. Long before the main story begins, Voltron was the greatest defender in the universe. He was a massive robotic warrior, loved by peaceful planets and feared by evil rulers. As long as Voltron stood, tyrants like Zarkon could not simply take whatever they wanted, but Zarkon had a weapon that could do what his armies could not. Her name was Hagar, an ancient witch with dark magic and a mind full of cruelty. Hagar found a way to defeat Voltron without destroying him completely. She split the mighty robot into 5 separate robotic lions and hid them across the planet Arus. That decision changed everything. Planet Arus had once been beautiful, green, peaceful, and ruled by a royal family connected to Voltron's ancient legacy. But after the Defender was broken apart, Arus became vulnerable. Zarkon's forces attacked, cities fell, people were scattered, and the royal family was nearly wiped out. By the time the story truly begins, Arus is no longer a shining kingdom. It is a wounded world trying to survive. The last survivor of its royal line is Princess Allura. She lives inside the Castle of Lions, an ancient fortress tied to Voltron's power, protected by the loyal advisor Koran and her nervous but devoted nanny. Allura is young, but she is not weak. She has watched her planet suffer for years. She has inherited ruins, grief, and responsibility. And even before she becomes a pilot, you can feel that she is not the kind of princess who will stay hidden forever. This is where the Galaxy Alliance enters the story. They send 5 young pilots to Arus with one mission: find Voltron and restore him as Defender of the Universe. The team is led by Keith, calm, focused, and disciplined. He is the kind of leader who does not waste words when action is needed. Lance is the bold one, sharp-tempered and fearless, sometimes reckless but always loyal. Sven is the serious second-in-command, quiet and dependable. Hunk is the big, strong, good-hearted member of the team, the kind of hero who looks intimidating but often brings warmth to the group. And Pidge, the youngest and smallest, is the brilliant technical mind whose intelligence makes him just as valuable as any fighter. Together, they are supposed to become the Voltron Force. But before they can become heroes, they become prisoners. Soon after arriving near Arus, the 5 pilots are intercepted by Zarkon's forces, led by Commander Urak. They are captured and taken to Planet Doom, thrown into the dungeons of Zarkon's empire. And those dungeons immediately show what kind of world this is. Doom is not just a villain's headquarters, it is a place of chains, slaves, fear, and cruelty. The pilots see the suffering Zarkon has built his power on. But Keith and his team are resourceful. They escape, flee Doom, and make their way back to Arus. There, in the ruins, they discover the Castle of Lions. Inside, they meet Princess Allura and Koran, and the real mission begins. Allura accepts them as defenders of Arus and gives them access to the castle's secrets. With help from Koran and the spirit of Allura's late father, King Alfor, the team begins searching for the 5 robotic lions. Each lion is hidden in a different part of Arus and connected to a natural force. The black lion, which Keith will command, is tied to lightning and storm power. The red lion is linked to fire and volcanic energy. The green lion is connected to wind and cyclone force. The blue lion draws strength from water. The yellow lion belongs to the desert and the power of the earth. That is part of what made the show feel bigger than a simple robot cartoon. The lions were not just machines waiting in a garage. They felt ancient, elemental, almost mythical. The team searches for the keys that can awaken them. Some are found quickly, others through danger and trial, and eventually all 5 lions are activated. Then comes the moment that made Voltron unforgettable. The lions launch into battle. Keith gives the command. Each lion locks into position. Feet and legs form. Arms and body connect. The head rises. And suddenly, the 5 lions become Voltron. For children watching in 1984, this was magic. The transformation was repeated again and again, but it never felt boring because it was the moment everything changed. Before Voltron formed, the heroes might be losing. After Voltron formed, the battle had hope. Then came the blazing sword, the weapon that turned Voltron from a giant robot into a legend. Against Zarkon's robeasts, that sword became the final answer. From that point forward, the series builds its familiar rhythm. Zarkon wants Arus destroyed. Hagar creates a new robeast. The monster attacks. The lions fight separately. The team struggles. Then Voltron forms, the blazing sword appears, and the monster falls. But what made the show work was not just the formula. It was the feeling that every battle was part of a larger war. Zarkon was not going away. Hagar was not running out of monsters, and the Voltron Force had to keep proving that they deserved the legend they had awakened. The first major change comes early, when Sven is badly wounded in battle. During a dangerous encounter involving Hagar and one of her monsters, Sven is struck down and injured severely enough that he can no longer pilot the Blue Lion. He is sent away for medical treatment, and suddenly, the team loses its second-in-command. For a children's cartoon, that was a real consequence. The heroes won battles, but they did not escape untouched. With Sven gone, the Blue Lion needs a new pilot. Princess Allura steps forward. This is one of the most important moments in the series. Allura could have remained in the castle as the royal figure the heroes protected. Instead, she joins the fight herself. Her nanny is horrified. Koran is uncertain. The pilots know the danger. But Allura is not asking to be saved anymore. She is choosing to defend her planet with her own hands. She enters the cockpit of the Blue Lion and becomes a real member of the Voltron Force. That choice changes her character. Allura is still a princess, but she is also a warrior. She makes mistakes, faces fear, and learns under pressure. She proves herself not through speeches, but through action. For 1984, that mattered. She was not just the girl in the castle. She was part of the machine that saved the galaxy. On the other side of the war, Zarkon's empire begins to reveal its own dangerous personalities. Commander Yurak leads many of the early attacks on Arus, but every failure makes Zarkon more furious. Doom is not a place where failure is forgiven. Eventually, Yurak is punished in the cruelest possible way. Hagar transforms him into a robeast and sends him into battle himself. He becomes another monster for Voltron to destroy, proving that even Zarkon's loyal servants are disposable. Then the story brings in Prince Lotor, Zarkon's son, and the conflict becomes more personal. Lotor is not just a military commander. He is charismatic, arrogant, skilled, and deeply obsessed with Princess Allura. Zarkon wants conquest, but Lotor wants Allura as his queen. That obsession makes him unpredictable and more unsettling. He does not only want to defeat Arus, he wants to possess its princess, turning his war into something personal and dangerous. Lotor also creates tension inside the villain side. He sees himself as more refined than his father, but he is just as cruel in his own way. Zarkon sees Lotor as useful only when he succeeds. Hagar supports Doom's plans, but her loyalty is always tied to power, not love. Planet Doom is full of betrayal waiting to happen. The heroes survive because they learn to trust each other. The villains fail because they cannot. Hagar remains one of the strangest and most important villains in the story. She is the witch who originally broke Voltron apart, and she continues creating robeasts for Zarkon and Lotor. Some robeasts are mechanical giants. Some are alien creatures. Some are innocent beings twisted into monsters through magic. That gives the battles a darker edge. Zarkon's empire does not just destroy life, it corrupts it. As the series continues, the story expands beyond Arus. The Voltron Force encounters other planets affected by Zarkon's empire, including planet Pollux. Pollux has a complicated royal history with Arus, and there the team meets Prince Bandor and Princess Rommel. Rommel is especially important because she looks almost exactly like Princess Allura. The resemblance comes from shared royal blood, but it also puts her in terrible danger. Lotor captures Rommel partly because of that resemblance. She is taken to Planet Doom and thrown into the slave dungeons, where the story becomes darker than the usual monster of the week structure. Rommel sees the suffering of Doom's prisoners firsthand. She is trapped beneath the surface of Zarkon's empire, surrounded by fear and despair. And there, in the darkness, she finds someone the audience thought was gone from the main story. Sven. After leaving the Voltron Force for medical treatment, Sven's journey took a terrible turn. Lotor's forces attacked, Sven was captured, and he eventually ended up hidden beneath Planet Doom. But this is not the same Sven we knew at the beginning. He is ragged, haunted, and emotionally broken by what he has seen. He has survived, but survival has cost him something. He feels guilt, shame, and helplessness after witnessing so much suffering. Rommel helps pull him back from that despair. She pushes him to act, not because she gives him some magical cure, but because escape could save lives. Together, Sven and Rommel help prisoners flee Doom. Their escape turns both characters into active fighters against Zarkon's empire. Sven is no longer just the injured pilot who left the team. Rommel is no longer just a captured princess. They become symbols of resistance from inside Doom's own shadow. This matters because the war begins to change. At first, the Voltron Force is mostly defending Arus from attack. But as Sven, Rommel, and other oppressed worlds become involved, the conflict turns into a wider rebellion against Zarkon. The Empire still looks powerful, but cracks are forming. Zarkon responds by escalating. He grows tired of sending one robeast after another and begins planning larger attacks. One of his most dangerous schemes involves a powerful satellite designed to supercharge hundreds of robeasts at once. If it works, Voltron could be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. One monster can fall to the blazing sword. An army of enhanced monsters could bury even the greatest defender in the universe. Sven becomes critical in stopping this plan. Working undercover, he discovers the satellite's location and gets the information to the Voltron Force. The team destroys it before Zarkon's massive robeast army can be unleashed. It is a major victory because it proves Zarkon's biggest plans can fail too. Doom is terrifying, but it is not unstoppable. The series also shows oppressed planets beginning to rebel. One world, Yadal, declares independence from Zarkon and invites the Voltron Force to celebrate. But Hagar turns the moment into a trap by creating a duplicate Voltron. This fake Voltron is designed to copy the real one's moves and deceive the heroes. It is a clever idea because it attacks the symbol itself. If Voltron is hope, then a false Voltron is corruption of hope. But Keith realizes the duplicate has a weakness. The real Voltron Force can adapt because they are not just following a program. They think, trust, and respond to each other. By separating parts of the formation, they expose the fake's flaw and destroy it. The message is simple but effective. Voltron's true power is not only the machine, it is the team inside it. As Doom suffers more defeats, the villains turn against each other. Zarkon becomes furious with Lotor's failures and eventually throws his own son into prison. But Lotor escapes and seizes the throne of Planet Doom while Zarkon is away. Father and son, once part of the same empire, become rivals for power. This is one of the key signs that Doom is rotting from within. An empire built on cruelty eventually teaches everyone to betray everyone else. Princess Allura sees the opportunity. Instead of waiting for the next attack, she calls for a conference of allied planets and argues that the time has come to strike Doom directly. This is a major evolution for her. She is no longer only defending Arus. She is thinking like a leader of a galactic resistance. Lotor tries to disrupt the conference, and during the confrontation, Keith is wounded. With Keith down, Allura takes command. She pilots the Black Lion, the Commander's Lion, and leads the team in forming Voltron. This is one of her strongest moments. The princess, who began as the last survivor of a ruined kingdom, now commands the legendary Defender in battle. The Alliance moves forward with the attack. The Voltron Force captures a powerful pulsar cannon from Doom's forces, giving them the weapon they need to strike Planet Doom's defenses. Allura uses it to disable Doom's planetary shield, opening the way for the final assault. For once, the fight is not happening above Arus. The heroes are taking the war to the world that started it. The final battle over Planet Doom is one of the biggest moments in the original story. Zarkon himself enters combat in a massive robot form, finally facing Voltron directly. This is not another robeast sent by Hagar. This is the King of Doom stepping out of his throne room to crush the Defender with his own hands. The battle is brutal. Zarkon's power is enormous, and Voltron's blazing sword, the weapon that usually ends every fight, is damaged or lost during the clash. At the same time, Lotor surrounds Voltron with flying explosives, trapping the heroes in the air above Planet Doom. If they move wrong, they can be destroyed. For once, the normal solution is gone. The team cannot simply form Voltron, summon the sword, and win. Then comes an unexpected turn. Hagar, betrayed and disrespected by Lotor, uses her magic to clear a path for Voltron. It is not pure goodness. Hagar has done too much damage to become innocent. But her decision helps break Lotor's trap and shows how badly Doom's internal loyalties have collapsed. Meanwhile, Sven and Rommel lead commandos against the Robeast Laboratory, the place where Doom's monsters are created. Destroying that lab is one of the most important victories in the entire series. It cuts off Zarkon's ability to keep producing nightmare after nightmare. Doom's greatest weapon factory goes up in flames. Lotor makes one last stand with Dark Doom Castle, but Voltron is not alone. Corrin pilots the Castle of Lions in its spaceship form, giving support to the heroes. That image brings the story full circle. The castle that once sheltered Allura during Arus's darkest years now helps defeat the empire that ruined her world. Doom's defenses fall. Lotor's control collapses. Zarkon's power is broken. The Drool Empire begins to fall apart. After years of fear, Arus and the galaxy finally see a chance for peace. But the original Voltron series was not only about the Lion Force. The 1984 show also included the Vehicle Force storyline, built around a different Voltron made from 15 vehicles instead of 5 lions. This team operates from the Explorer, a huge Galaxy Alliance ship searching for new worlds because the Alliance's home planets have become overcrowded. Their mission brings them into conflict with the larger Drool Empire. Vehicle Voltron is divided into land, sea, and air teams, each with specialized vehicles. Together, all 15 machines combine into one giant robot. This version expands the universe, but it never became as beloved as the Lion Force. The reason is simple. The 5 lions had a stronger myth. Keith, Lance, Hunk, Pidge, Allura, Sven, Rommel, Lotor, Zarkon, and Hagar created a more personal story. 5 animal robots forming one heroic warrior was easier to remember, easier to love, and impossible to separate from the identity of Voltron itself. Behind the scenes, the story of Voltron is also fascinating. The American series was adapted from 2 separate Japanese anime shows. The Lion Force material came from Beast King Go Lion, and the Vehicle Force material came from Armored Fleet Die-Rugger XT. World Events Productions rewrote dialogue, changed names, edited violence, softened darker elements, and shaped the footage into a single American cartoon universe. The original Japanese versions were often much darker. Characters died more directly, the backstory carried harsher details, and some villain actions were more disturbing than what American children saw. The American adaptation removed much of that intensity, but it kept enough danger to make the story feel meaningful. Heroes could be injured, planets could suffer, villains could be genuinely threatening. That balance is why the show worked. Voltron premiered in 1984 and quickly became one of the defining cartoons of its era. It arrived at exactly the right time, when kids wanted action, adventure, toys, teams, and heroes who felt larger than life. But Voltron had something extra. It mixed science fiction with fantasy. It had spaceships and robots, but also castles, princesses, magic, ghosts, witches, and ancient legends. It felt like a fairy tale launched into outer space. And at the center of it all was the idea of unity. Alone, each lion was powerful, but limited. Together, they became Voltron. That was the emotional engine of the series. The heroes did not win because one person was perfect. They won because they formed a team. Keith brought leadership, Lance brought fire, Hunk brought strength, Pidge brought intelligence. Allura brought courage and heart. Sven and Rommel brought the spirit of resistance. Together, they became more than separate fighters. They became the defender the galaxy needed. That is why the transformation sequence still matters. It was not just repeated animation. It was the moment chaos became order. It was the moment fear turned into hope. It was the moment 5 separate forces became one answer to evil. Looking back now, Voltron, defender of the universe, may seem simple in places. The battles follow patterns. The dialogue can be old-fashioned. The animation shows its age. But the core myth is still powerful. A ruined planet, a hidden princess, 5 pilots from the stars, a legendary robot broken apart by dark magic, a tyrant ruling from a nightmare world, a witch making monsters, a prince whose obsession made him dangerous, and a team that learned to become stronger together than they ever were alone. That is why Voltron lasted. Not because it was flawless, but because it understood something every child watching could feel immediately. Sometimes the darkness is too big for one hero. Sometimes the enemy is too strong for one fighter. Sometimes courage only works when people trust each other enough to combine their strength. And when they do, the lions rise. They form feet and legs. They form arms and body. And finally, they form Voltron, defender of the universe.